What's up, man? Back for episode 20 of Jar Sports Takes, and today we're going to be talking about a little Philadelphia Eagles football rather than the typical Dallas Cowboys. Let me start this video by saying the Eagles are 3-0. You got to tip your cap. They're winning ball games down the stretch in one score, gritty games. And that's all you can want as a fan. And, watching this team play week in and week out, you can see their struggles on both sides of the ball. But somehow, in the end, they come out with a W. And like I said, you just gotta tip your cap. Like you gotta respect at the end of the day. And all everyone's saying on the radio, sports personalities, fans on Twitter, like they're going to a Super Bowl. It's solidified. They're back. They're all the way back. But me personally, I've seen this story happen, and it happened 2 years ago in 2023 when they started 10-1. They started fantastic, and they were in multiple. I'm pretty sure it was 7 games. They were in one-score games, coming out with a victory. And just after the fact, you're like, wow, how did they pull that out? Because they didn't look that good, but they just keep coming out with these wins. So pretty much just say they keep winning games. You're going to respect it. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. And so far through the season, through 3 games, I've held off on saying it after the first 2 wins. But this game, I have to say it. I have to say it out loud. And all my friends during that time were saying, a win is a win. We don't care how it happens. We're getting a win, which, they're right. A win is a win. You're right in the NFL. But when you don't see it on the field that they were a legit football team and there's struggles that are very, overblown that you can see, like the pass rush isn't there. Offensively, the play calling is stale. Hurts has his continued struggles. AJ Brown is getting the ball. Saquon has struggled. There's a lot of key things that will stop them from having a successful season into January and February if this keeps up. And I'm sure whoever watches this video or even gets this far will crucify me for this. But, you can say this about any one score game and almost about any sport, but specifically football. Like, if CD doesn't have a case of the drops in week one, Dallas goes on to win. They're 0-1. There's, overblown stories about how the Eagles are not back. And then you go into week two. If Travis Kelce doesn't drop that pass in the fourth quarter that ends up being an interception by the former Texas safety, they're 0-2. And then this week, if a special teams unit can just block up front and block a field goal and not let Jordan Davis push off the long snapper, which is a penalty, uh, twice for blocks, they win the game too. I will say that last field goal was 100% going wide left off of the foot. It just didn't look like it was going to be good. Neither here or there, but like I said, they're gritty one-score games that could have went the other way if the ball bounced the other way. Similar to 2023, and I'm seeing the same thing happen again. And funny enough, I just saw Chase Daniel say it on Twitter today about, 2023 vibes. He is seeing the same thing that he hopes it's not going to be the same, but it does look similar through 3 weeks. So let me start on the offensive side of the ball. Through 10 quarters of football this season, the Eagles offense just looks stale. It looked bad. They weren't moving the ball downfield. Hurts can't throw over 10 yards in the first 10 quarters. Saquon's honestly been, contained for the most part, not rushing for a crazy amount, not having too many big plays. AJ Brown is a complete non-factor. You're not even trying to get him the football and try to let him get in open space and just make plays like he should be doing. And of course, the first thing people are going to say is Kevin Platoula's offense, his play calling absolutely sucks. But you got to remember, like this squad was together last year and the year before that, other than Saquon. Like they have built a chemistry where it shouldn't matter if a new offensive coordinator comes in and calls plays, especially when the guy has been in the building. It's not like he's fresh off the street, like he's been there. I don't think it should take a few games for them to build up that continuity. It should just, flow right into the season. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for that specific reason, but still, it's just something I wouldn't want to see if I was an Eagles fan, and I would be very concerned with if I'm seeing this on a week to week basis, especially, heading into a tough game against the Bucks this week, who have also won 3 one-score games down to the wire. Baker Mayfield has led, fourth quarter drives to win the game. So in the first half of that Rams game, Jalen Hurts was 4 for 8, 17 yards, sacked twice, and he struggles to identify the blitz, which has been an issue throughout his career. And people, kind of gloss over the fact that he has this issue and he hasn't improved on identifying pre-snap blitzes, and he got absolutely lit up in that first quarter of that game last week. And Saquon only had 7 carries for 13 yards, while AJ Brown didn't have a catch. I'm pretty sure he had 2 targets. But in that first half, like it was bad. The offense was stale. They went down. They were down 26-7 early in the third quarter, and like you just thought it was over. Second half happened, they got the ball, and just a flip must have switched. But like Hurts let the ball fly. He was 17 for 24, 209, three touchdowns, and his first three touchdowns of the season. And also prior to that, he had four completions over 10 plus yards through the air. Like, if that doesn't boggle your mind, and then you expect people to believe that he is an elite quarterback, dinking and dunking and not really picking up yards, not taking no chances, no tight window throws, it just boggles my mind that simply because his team is winning football games, that you can put him into an elite conversation. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he is great for the Eagles, and I've said this time and time again, and I get crucified every single time. But he is not among the elite guys. Like, he's not up there with Herbert. He's not up there with Omar, Burrow, Mahomes. He just isn't. And there's no slight to that. That's okay not to be. He is good for what the Eagles are. But let's stop projecting Hurts into this, stratosphere where he shouldn't be. It's just not respectable for him because he's getting so much hate because of it. Like I said, second half much improved. You wonder why that play calling wasn't adapted in the first 10 quarters of the season. Why just now let's start throwing the ball. I've heard people say like we must throw the ball now. We're down this much. We're not comfortable for letting Jalen Hurts do this when we're in ball games and it's close games. Let's only let the ball fly when he absolutely needs to because we are scared that he is going to make a mistake when the game is close, which, that's not my opinion. That's just what I've heard and what I've seen. I'm pretty sure Nick Wright said it. So hands up, not me. Let's go to the defensive side for a little bit. They haven't been great on the defensive end. They only had three sacks on the season, which ranks 29th in the NFL. In past years, they were able to get to the quarterback with Sweat. They were able to get to the quarterback with Graham. It looked a lot cleaner on the defensive end. I've been seeing things about people saying Jalen Carter hasn't been given his best effort through these first three games. That is a big issue, especially in the pass game when you need to get to the pass rusher in this league to win ball games. And, they're winning ball games anyway. So I guess it doesn't matter too much for them. On the other end, though, the secondary, they have a rotating door at cornerback with Bennett and Adoree Jackson, both which might not play this week apparently, which would be a huge miss because Abuka's over there. They might get Chris Godwin back for the Bucks, so it'd be very scary playing against Baker Mayfield. Puka just went for over 100 yards. CD went for 100 yards in week one. Chiefs are kind of asterisk. They don't have Rice right now. But it is a concern at cornerback too. And do you trade for someone? Do you try to, the free agents? There's Stephon Gilmore on the market right now, just as a respectable cornerback too. At least you feel a little more, secure having a guy that's been there, defensive player of the year, all pro, Pro Bowler, But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of concerns around this Eagles team on offense and defense where cool, you're 3-0. That is awesome. You're top of the NFC East right now. You're top of the NFC overall. And you should be happy about that as an Eagles fan, but there has to be concerns right now if you're watching these games and understand what is going on in these games, not just watching it as a fan. You got to be a little more in depth to understand what problems they do have and that keep occurring on a week to week basis. So, like fans in Philly say, a win is a win. They're 3-0 headed into Bucks week, which is probably more than they could have asked for. I probably would have said they would have been happy being 2-2 at this time and day after week four. But they have a chance to be 4-0, and hats off to them. You're winning ball games. But like I said, 2023 vibes for me. I don't see it right now. It took me a little bit, about half the season, for me to buy into them last season, so maybe it's going to be the same as this year. But at this point in time, 2023 vibes, I think, a collapse could come down later in the season if this play calling doesn't improve, if Jalen Hurts doesn't want to throw the ball downfield, if they don't get A.J. Brown involved immediately, if Saquon doesn't get back to his normal self, which is very hard to do after a 2,000-yard season, obviously. And the defensive, concerns I don't think will change just because I don't think they're going to bring anyone in mid-season. Maybe you go get CJ GJ that just got released from Texans. But other than that, I don't think the safety, cornerback two, and pass rush is going to change. So if teams can, start to exploit that, which I think they will be able to as you get more and more film week by week, but who knows what we'll see. But this is only week three. It's early. Hats off to you. You're 3-0. Congrats. But that's pretty much all I got for this video. Eagles video. Definitely gonna cut this up, put it on TikTok, and probably get hated on a bunch for it because that's how people are. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and hopefully have a Cowboys video very, very soon. So appreciate it.